Still dealing with a lot of stuff from the previous month. I always remind everybody when you have an issue, right, remember how that issue affects the progress of somebody else. So one or two, not a big deal. When I'm dealing with 8 or 9, 10 issues on a regular basis, those add up and it's just more stuff to keep track of. I also want to caution everybody about any kind of extension. Extensions become dangerous things because you're eating up time into the next week, right? So, there's one thing that somebody showed me a long time ago. I'll have to do it here. And it was one of those things where I was like, hey, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So, right, so usually you've got time. Right? It starts and it ends. Okay, and along the way you've got milestones, things you need to hit, deadlines. Any production is like this. Right? They're very strict. Remember, it's not just you working, it's a team of people. You might be modeling on an asset or animating an asset in the morning. The person comes in, they want to see where you've completed, what shot you're done with. They can view that, and then they start animating in the evening, and they complete the next shot, and they're reliant on your work. Okay, you don't hit those deadlines, you cause contracts to fall apart, things like that, investors to leave. It is not a good thing. So if you find yourself, the best thing is to try and be up here, above time, so we have a little bit of slack. Right? We're done with our stuff, we can relax until the deadline. This is very hard to do. If you're not scheduling your time down to the quarter hour, and I'm being serious with that, and I'm super ADD and OCD and all that, right? I think we talked about that. I have to do that with my stuff. I have to know my weakness and then learn how to defeat my weakness because my boss does not care about my weakness. They care about getting something done. So I always try to keep myself up here. And it was very difficult. It was a lot less than I would want. A lot more getting sick. I remember attending classes with cotton shoved in my jaw because I had a tooth problem. I couldn't go to the dentist. I couldn't afford it, but I couldn't stop working. Right? And if I closed my jaw too much, the pain was just excruciating. So I got 0 sleep for like a week. Right? I was delirious, I remember, but I still was doing what I needed to do. We all signed up for boot camp training. Right? If anybody told you that Full Sail was, man, you got plenty of time. Right? Remember, every week accounts for like a month. Okay, so one class covers a ton of information that if you were at a regular school, you have a week to absorb and think about and work on. This is not that case, and that's what we all signed up for. So, if you start falling down here, something that is going on is not working, right? So the big thing, and we were just talking about working in groups, right? You gotta have somebody there. If you ever work out, anybody gone to the gym, work out by yourself, you try to push a little bit too much, and you're like, spotter, where's my spotter? You ever get left under a bench? I have. It sucks, right? Because I don't want to talk to anybody, or I'm doing it at home. Right? I'm like, okay, I should have gone for that needed roll in the bar, right? It's dangerous, but if you've got somebody there that you can lean on, somebody there that you can ask a quick question to, somebody there that can go, oh yeah, I just did that, I can help you out. That is awesome, right? And you don't have to be next to somebody to do that. That's why Google Hangout, Discord, and all those are amazing things to have because you can share screens, you can do all that stuff. And even if our Google Hangout isn't working right, I just met with a student this afternoon on the fly in the FS modeling department, Google Hangout. He was talking to one of the lab instructors that was there, and they said, hey, do you have a second to jump on with this guy? He has some questions, I don't know how to answer them. I said, sure, yeah, jump on. Right? You can set these up and then send somebody a link and say, hey, I'm going to be working all night this Friday night. You want to work with me and just kind of talk and hang out, you got to do whatever it takes. And if you find yourself down here, you got to figure out how to make up that time. You got to figure that out. It might be taking a grade hit. Right? I love the, hey, I'm going to take an extension. I'm really not proud of what I've got. I want to make sure it looks better. It's like, okay, well, if this was reality, one, every artist wants more time. We would love that. Anybody in their right mind would want more time before a deadline so they can do something better. Yeah, no kidding. But unfortunately, we don't have that, right? And the job, they might go, you're fired. They need somebody that can get it done. We got to get it done, right? If you're wondering about timelines, Jeff Renee shared a story with me when he was working on Hellboy, and they sent out an email in the afternoon. It was like, hey, who wants to model a Jeep Cherokee? You know the Jeep Cherokee in the first one where he smashes down and flips over? Right? Who wants to model it? He was like, I'll do it. They said, all right, you got 3 days. It needs to be modeled inside and out UV, ready for texture. And he's like, what? Yeah, do it. Right? So he sacrificed all the other things, the sleeping and whatever. And I'm not saying be unhealthy, but I'm saying we gotta do what we gotta do. Okay? And I've only met with one student so far. Thank you over there. We've got 2 Google Hangouts already, which have been awesome. I've got office hours ready to go. Emails. I've gotten a lot of emails about, hey, I need an extension, or hey, this happened, but I'm not getting any of that. Can you look at my stuff? Can you check this out? I had a question about that. And I know y'all got questions. I know you would like your stuff to be looked at some point, right? So I encourage you to try and figure it out. I was able to do it. I was always able to get myself back here if I fell behind and tried my hardest to stay up here. It was tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Hey, all right, we got 12. Well, good. It was tough. It was, and for online, we just had all the students show up, which is awesome. Now we've got perfect attendance for so far every day, which is good. But try and keep yourself on the line. It is, stuff's gonna happen. You're gonna drop below here. But really, it's what are you gonna do to get back on track? Right? How are you gonna do that? Sacrifice. Play the numbers game. Right? All the time I see people wasting more than the allotted time on integrateds and things like that. And it's like those are worth 1% each one, or online versus AMP's a little different. Or I'm going to put all my stuff into this one assignment that's worth 5% and then ignore the one that's worth 15%. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't do that. That's why we give you that information about what each thing is worth. We give that to you so you can play the numbers a little bit, right? So definitely, if you need strategies like that, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you. If you say it's hard, I'll remind you of what Kennedy said. We didn't go into space because it was easy or something like that. And I'm not going to try and quote him because I can't really remember the quote. So we did it because it was hard. Or we're doing it because it's hard. We're not going to go to the moon because it's easy. We're going to do it because it's hard and it's challenging, and that's what we want. Right? Human beings, we thrive on the challenge. So, talk to people, get with people. I mean, you are all blessed with being in a class with PRM students, and guess what PRM students have already done? Yeah. They wouldn't be at PRM if they didn't pass this class at some point in time. So I'm sure they wouldn't mind answering a question here or there. Now, if you're keeping them from doing their work, they become annoying. But it's a resource. Use it. There's a lot of students that have already been through this class that can help. Okay? Get with them. Stronger in numbers. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about that? Any questions about, they're having a hard time looking at this or doing that? I do find that most of the people not most, but, I get a good enough amount that are struggling. One is because they're just not really reading FSO. Like a lot of people, they don't realize that there's videos at the bottom, that kind of stuff. And it's like, then go down there, check it out, and you know, and you'll see. That doesn't mean that it's easily understandable. It's sometimes though we can't answer the question. Okay. But I just want to talk about that. Especially week one. Week one's usually rough for people, and then they start. If you have a bad week one, tends to steamroll week 2, week 3, and then week 4 we're scrambling to get things done. And I think week 4 is probably one of the easier weeks out of this thing we call character model in front of us. But let's get started with week 2. Second reads and secondaries, part 1. The main thing we're looking here to do is dive deeper into the reference and start establishing the parts and pieces that make up our character. Okay? We're going, we proof of concept, blocked them out. We've done a nice color blocking study of the reference. Now we're going to move forward with that, right? So that's one of the things we'll be talking about, right? Or not one of the things. All of the stuff we're going to be talking about. So any questions again for what we just went through to anything you've read about what we're getting into? No? Anybody reread all the assignments? Kind of check them out? Have a good idea of what we're getting into? Okay. Cloth pictures? Well, we are doing the cloth study at the end of the week, but we are really trying to build those structures, right? Okay, so we're going to talk about this week's assignments. We're going to talk about how to use contour lines to describe shape. Main areas of focus for secondaries part 1. Right? We don't want to step on week 3's toes. We don't want to go too far. We don't know where our expectations are for the week. The anatomy study is going to be looking at planes of the face and skull structures, right? This is the week where we take that real basic shape of a head and we push it into skull structures and planes of the face, okay? 2 ways to develop secondary shapes, forms, and layers. So we're going to look at our models, and really there's 2 main ways of building. And I'm going to talk about several that fit within these 2 categories. And my goal is not to show you this is how you make a shirt. My goal is to show you here's several ways to make a shirt. Pick which one you like, what your brain adapts to, what you think will work best for your character. Or, hey, he showed us how to make a shirt. I could use that to make a pair of pants. Okay? Again, we tried the very linear style of teaching, and it was very much a, hey, let me show you how to make a glove. Or better yet, a shoe. And we'd make one style of shoe. And then what would everybody start asking? How do you make a sneaker? How do you make a boot? How do you make a flip-flop? How do you make this? And I'm like, I don't know, how would you? Let's talk about it. We know the tools. Now we need to figure out how to utilize those tools to build what it is we want to build. So a lot of thought going into this week. And again, planning. We don't require you to plan, but I would be thinking about how and what tools, what procedures and tools will I use to generate these pieces. But we definitely will be looking at 2 different ways. One I'll term the sledgehammer approach, and the other one is a sourcing approach, right, of how to develop your shapes. And you use a combination of both. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. So the assignments, just with any assignments, right, the 2 integrateds you're going to have are the head study and the cloth study. Okay. Cloth study does benefit you more for next week because that's when we're really looking at sculpting clothing wrinkles and seams. But it's a fun little assignment. I would tell everybody to focus mainly on the sculpture side of things, but it does get into texturing. It gets into showing you how to utilize the masking tools and loading in an alpha channel to get yourself some tattered edges and things like that. So you get a little bit of poly paint, a little bit of higher end procedures, which is a lot of fun. So if you do have the time and you follow the video, you can, get through that in 2 hours. It's a good one. But if all you have time for is doing the actual sculpture of the flag and making sure it's draped properly and whatnot, then that's where I would tell you to focus on. Okay. As far as the head study, anatomical structures in the head, I would treat these a little bit different than looking at the torso. The torso, yes, we're seeing a lot of bone structure. Underneath, a lot of muscle, right? A lot of muscle and other elements. So when we look at the face, we kind of change that a little bit. Yes, there's a lot of muscle structure there, but most of what you're seeing and feeling is based off of the bone, right? The muscles are very thin, exception to that you're Masseter or Matt's Eater, if you don't remember that one. Everything here is more about planes of the face and skull structures, right? What does the skull structure look like? What is this bone here? It's not the cheek, the zygomatic arch, right? Where does it go? Temporal crest, frontal bone, maxilla, the mandible, right? Understanding those shapes and structures and how the skin sits on top of that, developing the planes of the face would probably be where I'd tell you to go. So I'm going to tell Christian, what I would recommend to get that kind of study is take one of the heads from an online, same exact thing. Take one of the heads for the plane study and take one of the tools in ZBrush, put it on your canvas, and plane it out. I would probably recommend utilizing the Trim Dynamic tool for that, but you can start looking at where the planes are that way. And that's a good study and really helpful for this week. With anything you're going to be looking at, with all the assignments we're going to be talking about, have a plan, right? Keep saying, and again, it's more than just go to the store and buy stuff. It's go to the store and buy this, then this, I need this, many of that, and so on and so forth. So have a nice plan. Use your resources, FSO, Pinterest, Google, your peers, Linda, what else is out there? Hangout, Facebook, all that stuff. There's a lot of resources. Stay focused. Don't worry about the tiny details. Hit the big stuff first, right? So in this one, planes of the face and skull structures, we're hitting the cloth sculpture aspect of the other assignment. But look at what are the core things I need to do. Really make sure you understand that so you know exactly what you're targeting. Okay? You guys ever taken a direct route following GPS or just kind of wing getting somewhere? It's kind of fun just to go, I know it's over that way somewhere. I'm going to start heading in that direction and you start just taking roads that you maybe don't take on a regular basis. Sometimes that's fun, but sometimes you miss the party because you got lost. Right? So have a route, have a plan. Skull structure, right? You see this one here. This one's really further than we would expect you to get in the 2 hours, especially after the studying. I mean, this is definitely attainable within 2 hours once you get seasoned up. But looking at the head, look at the planes of the face. Right? Look at the skull structures. One of the things, again, that we brought up in the last class was utilizing the skulls, utilizing the skeleton structures. Yes, bring those into your scenes, sculpt around them. Why not, right? That's one of the hardest things. We're faking the illusion that this stuff exists underneath the skin. So we need to make sure that we know what's underneath the skin so we can account for it. Otherwise, it's going to feel plastic. It's going to feel fake. It's not going to have that. Even cartoony stuff is going to be paying attention to those elements, okay? Here's the cloth, right? Skulls, destruction, blood. You might like it. If you don't want to see that stuff, don't texture it. Like I said, just do the actual sculpture. Okay, second reads, right? So here what we're doing is we're utilizing lines, contour lines, to describe the surface. A lot of people can trace, right? And that was one of the things, when I was young, everyone was like, wow, look what you did, you're such a great artist. I was like, I put a piece of paper over the Honey Nuts Cheerios box and traced the V. It does not make me an artist, it makes me a replicator, okay? Yes, we're just, boom. So when we're doing 3D stuff, we're replicating the surface. But what we notice is, just like in animation, people are really good at hitting key poses. Right? People in modeling are really good at hitting the silhouette. But what they're not good at is understanding what happens between the side silhouette and the front silhouette. What happens in that 3/4? This is going to help you understand that. How many of you are dealing with drawings that don't show you 100% how one surface transitions into another surface? It's line work, right? You don't have shading on the image. It's just black and white line work. So in that case, you don't know how thick or how sharp that corner is. If you drew it, you think you know, but have you really thought about it? Okay? So this is where we have the choice or the option to figure that out. To say, this is going to be a softer transition. This is going to be a very harsh transition. We're going to do that with the pen tool, and then we're going to take a different approach where we will stroke like paths. We'll be working not with shapes. I'm not a fan of working with the shapes if you want to work with the shapes, you definitely can. It does save you time for setup in the scene, but as far as flexibility, I think the setting up of all the path layers and all the actual layers per stroke is a better way to go. If you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about, you will. You will. Right? So you can see these lines. If we were to remove the images, these lines should depict the 3D form. Right? And this has been used on Zootopia and many other films where they're like, hey, we want to get a good sense of what these things look like in 3D. Because remember, paper time is a lot cheaper than computer time. So they run contour sketches to really get a feel of how it's sitting. And if you're like, well, I'm an animator, what good does this do me? Well, when you're looking at animations and you're watching an arc, you're going to be better at digesting and dissecting curves and arcs out of the animation, because you can look at a shape and see them. You're going to be able to look at an animation and tell when it's a very linear transition, if it's a spline transition. We need to hang a little bit more so we can pull that arc a little bit wider, right? So it does help you be working with these, okay? So this assignment, what you're going to be doing is, and we'll be looking at it a little bit further, but you're going to be taking the 2 images that you used for your first reads. And what I would recommend is, since you have that as a PSD file, clear out all your shapes or group them together as first read shapes. And then clear it all out and start making yourself new layers and utilize the same setup so you can start doing your contours, okay? But you got 2 of those to do, right? And really look at the lines, right? This, again, is your chance to describe the shape. We're not looking for oversimplification. And trust me, everyone's like, do I have to use the pen tool? Yes, yes you do. It is a requirement. Now, I have told people it is a requirement. They're like, well, I don't like to use it. I'm not going to be able to get it done in time. Can I please use the pen tool? So you're going to take a hit for not following the requirement. But in reality, at least the assignment's done, right? But everybody that does the pen tool, I can tell, it just shows up. You can tell the lines aren't clean. Not the pencil, but the brush. They just go, I can sketch these in a lot faster. It's like, well, no kidding, but your lines look sketchy. Your lines are not nice and smooth. And plus, you haven't practiced a new skill. You haven't used the pen tool. It just really allows you to get, like, if you see the difference here, one, this line is describing the side of the foot and then changes and starts going over top of the foot. I want to show the line of the side of the foot from start to finish. Right? If you look here, going over the Achilles tendon and then into the ankle, we see that slight indent, where here, it's just too simplified. It's oversimplifying that shape. And if you come from the background I do, where we utilize curves to generate shapes, you had to pay attention to every one of those curves and make sure that they have the subtleties in them, because I didn't want to shape 9,000 points. Right? I wanted to make sure that the tools were kind of giving me some of those things, and it came from building accurate curves. So when you see highlights, right, if you look here, you can see that the highlight aggressively changes into shadow. What does that tell me? It's an aggressive shape change. Okay? And if I can't quite see, I love that. I'm going to go, well, I don't see that in the reference. I'm like, okay. Well, based on anatomy, I know that structure exists. But I don't see it in the reference. I'm like, yeah, but it's all shadowed. It's harsh lighting. So what can you do? You can go, okay, my dips in a little bit right there. There must be a dip in there. You know, as the hamstring comes around and connects, there must be a dip in there and then a roll over the knee. Right? Sometimes think beyond what you see. Okay? Not changing, but thinking beyond the shadows. And go, okay, I can't see it, but I know there's got to be structure here. Okay, there's got to be something else I know better. Okay, the secondary is part 1, right? This is broken down into 2 parts. You guessed it. Secondary is part 1, and secondary is part 2. So secondary is part 1 is taking 4 of your blockouts, right? We're going to drop 2 of them. We're going to take 4 of them, and we're going to start breaking apart the major pieces and parts of their outfit and what makes them, okay? So in this one here, I'm taking mainly a sledgehammery style approach. And what I mean by that is I take the block out, I mask it off, and I generate some nice, right? We looked at this last week. I generated some nice polygroups, and then I split the model. At this point, the model is 100% broken up into pieces. Nothing is connected to another piece. Right? That shirt is separate, his head is separate, the hands are separate, the cuff is separate, that sleeve is separate, the jacket is separate, the cuffs or the collars are actually part of it, the shirt is separate, this should have been separate, the pants are separated, and the shoe is now separated. If you want to get a real bad grade, keep everything together as one piece and turn that in for week 2. Right? I grade again, same way, technical and artistic. So if you turn it in, technically, all you've done is use some brushes. You haven't really gone technically into building these pieces. All right, so basically you're saying you've missed everything we've talked about this week. So try not to do that. If you're finding that I don't understand how to do this, then what should you be doing? You can say it. It's okay to have the right answer.
Giving up.
No. No, that was a good answer. No. Meeting with me, utilizing the resources that you have. Okay? That's what is gooder. Did I just say gooder? I may have said gooder. That's just gooder to do, okay? Right? Yeah. So, people always ask, they go, well, what are you expecting for week 2? I'm like, look at the reference. Look at how we look at the face. Should I have eyelids and a mouth? I'm like, look at the reference. Like, look at the examples. There it is, right there. There's no eyelids there, right? We don't have a nostrils pushed in there. The face is still very soft. But what is there? Planes in the face and skull structure. The structure, right? The beautiful thing about this is, when I go to put the eyelids on, I know that the head is 85 to 95% there. So when I'm putting the eyelids in, I'm not worried about the brow ridge. It's there, and it's accurate. And I was able to do it without worrying about the eyelids. Okay, so now I'm just making it better. Imagine trying to put a tire on a car that doesn't even have an axle or spindle or lug nuts yet. You can't do it unless you physically put it on the car instead of actually making it functionally on the car. So this is why we build this way. We start with a good structure, really making sure the foundation is strong. And we break it apart, building the canvases that will become more detailed the following week. Right now in this jacket, all I'm worried about next week is putting some buttons on, adding some wrinkles, some seams, right? I'm not worried about the structure. I'm not worried about the thickness because that's already been established. Okay? Here's some examples from students. Now, I don't want to throw yet because I know it pops in everybody's head. There's hair there. Do I need to worry about hair? Oh my goodness, there's hair. Yeah, you don't have to worry about hair. Why do they put hair? Let's think beyond. Let's try and give a hypothesis as to why the student made some hair. Bandana, exactly. They wanted to be able to size the bandana. And to properly do that, they roughed in some hair. Okay, they didn't spend a lot of time on the hair. They just quickly took a thing and got the shapes out really quick and then put a bandana around it. They did that also because this guy's missing a shirt. So he physically has less clothing. So they may have also been trying to push the asset a little bit further, not stepping on next week's assignments or whatever. This is by no way, shape, or form a finished set of hair, finished asset of hair. But again, this guy, they did a little bit of anatomy, upkeep, and then went in and said, well, I don't really need to do the bandana, but this guy really didn't have a lot, so I really want to have the bandana to make sure that I'm pushing the complexity. Here is the wrap top, and again, he's got good structure, right? But you'll notice here that we don't see the pockets. They're identified, but they're not really structured in. We've got a little bit of wrinkle happening in the pants, but these pants need a lot more in the groin, we need a lot more in the sleeves and in the body of the shirt. There's also asymmetrical things that would be start getting into in week 3. We wouldn't see those in week 2, right? We're still keeping things pretty symmetrical, unless it's like a huge item, like a robotic arm. definitely want to be establishing that this week, or at least locking it in to make sure that it was there for detailing next week. All right, but here they are, looking good. These are nice, both great assets, and you can see, I mean, they still have the feel of the character, which is great. That's really what we're pushing for. But the pocket is just sculpted. The flap of the pocket buttons aren't established yet. They could have pushed that a little bit further, but you know, you're working on 4 of them. It might be something we save for the next week. Hands are still not required for this week. You would push the shape a little bit more so you can get a better read on them, but you know, I'd probably save hands and stuff for week 3. Okay. So, questions? Yes.
So no hands or toes this week, just a little more shape to it?
Yeah, probably just cleaning up the shape a little bit more. You know. Now, if you've got gloves, let's look into it, right? Because remember, I honestly can't. When I say probably wouldn't worry about it, there might be some people that will want to worry about it. If you've got gloves on your character, finger gloves, it might be something to establish that glove. You're going to use your hands, right? But you know, maybe try and pre-think. Right, that's another thing. People, well, I changed my mind on what character I wanted to run with, or I'm not quite sure. Try and just pick. Try and pick and make that the 2 that you submitted for your blockouts, the 2 you're going to continue pushing a little bit further and working on for week 2, and then the 2 you're going to carry into week 3. Whether you'll really like them or not. The only time I would really suggest changing is when the character doesn't work anymore. Right? It's just a bad character. Doesn't have hair, doesn't have clothing, but a loincloth. Yeah, that's one I would not take or would not suggest you take beyond week 2 or even into week 2. But, you know, if this was a good block out and then I did a good job on it, this guy here, and then I went through, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to take these 2 characters into week 3 as well as my final characters. I'm not really a fan of them, but guess what? As my employer, right, if I'm your employer and you're my employee, and I hire you to model a character, I don't care what people think about it. You're going to work on some pretty terrible projects. You'll be like, oh, I hate it. If I have to look at this character one more time, I'm going to freak out. Guess what? You got another 2 weeks with it. You got to do it. Do the best you can. Okay? So, you know, cheap and effective. Cheap and effective. Questions? Comments? Concerns? Yes.
Could you go over a clean or decent way to separate them in ZBrush and separate the parts?
Of course. Yes. We're going to look at retreats first, and then we're going to get into more the sledgehammering approach today. And then the next class, blow your mind. Because it's all about extraction, Z-remesher, Maya, right? Don't forget Maya. You know how to quad draw. You can more. It's easy to spit your character out and build them. Yeah, we'll look at that. So thank you for asking those good questions. We're going to get in that. I get excited. Right? So let's take a look. I was showing everybody. I was like, yeah, I'm sculpting this eye. It's going to be really cool, hyper-real eye. And they're like, oh, you can just take this map that I bought off of so-and-so, put it on this Slates map, and you get a hyper-real eye. I'm like, yeah.
What if the reflection?
But I don't want to do that. I don't know. That was just a cheapy eye, but you know, I was like, yeah, look at this eye, and I sculpted the, you know, the muscle structure and the pupil and everything. I was like, yeah, now I'm gonna texture it because you want to go down that road. Yes, I've done the cheap eye. I've done the here's a picture of an eye, and you stick it on a sphere, and you bump it normal and all that stuff. You know, then there's always that one person. Well, why don't you just do this? I don't want to do that. I want to go through that production process myself. You know, you know those people, right?
I was laughing at the X.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like a Barney Rubble.
I'm working on my accents. They kind of blend together, but we'll go. I was going more than guy in the Bronx, you know?
It does sound like.
All right, maybe I'll be Barney Rubble. We'll see. All right, so let's take a look at the first thing, and that's going to be stuff. It's going to be the second contour. Okay? Okay, so again, what these things help us do, we gotta have a purpose. Why are we learning this? We're learning this so we can see the shapes better. This is an image, you can find this online, but a lot of people go, well, I don't know what this shape looks like. You've got to be able to cross-section. You got to be able to think about the profile of a shape. So when you're looking at your character, you can actually look at those shapes and say, hey, what's going on? And what can I do if I'm in ZBrush and I want to quickly check out the profile of the upper torso? What tool can I use that would slice through it and allow me to see the instant silhouette from the top? Dot brush.
Something? Curve slice?
It is a curve. I use the term, that is not the name of the tool.
It flattens everything when you cut it.
Well, there's that one. That would be almost like it was clipping everything. Okay. Well, clipping, a lot of people, I think it would be clipping, or they use the term slice. But remember, slicing slices through, then you could hide the mesh. But if I wanted to just cut it off, look at it, and then undo so I can continue working, I'd probably use the trim curve. Right? Clip curve's going to slam all the geometry down, so when I rotate to look at the cross-section of the torso, I'm going to see the arms and all that stuff smashed there. It's not going to work. But if we just quickly cut it off with the trim curve, look at it and said, that's pretty accurate, all right, rotated and undid the trim, I can move forward. So it might be a good way to do it. Okay? So contours are great, right? Here's another one. If you are going to get into contours, getting into the assignment, think about the main descriptive lines needed. Okay, so on this image, do you see anything that's a little repetitive?
Little circle at the bottom of
Which one?
that. Little rings down there.
This? Yeah, I mean, we're showing that we understand the shape right here, so why do we need another one? Okay, so that's a little repetitive. Anything else? There's one that I usually am thinking about.
The tag.
Attack this.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. Maybe a stretch. I don't know. If there was something that had two lines that were very similar to each other that kind of described the same shape, and it was kind of like, why, if I've already shown that I can describe it once, why would I spend time describing it again, but at a different angle?
Maybe you're circling next to it.
Oh, was I? Okay, sorry about that. Yes, that's the one. I didn't mean to give you the answer,
That
but,
wasn't my answer, but I'll take it.
right? Once we draw one of these, why do we need to draw another one? If I was going to model with nerves, right, what do I need? A path and a profile. So if I wanted to make that shape out of nerves, my path is a circle, my profile is the side of this, or the cross-section of the shape, and I would revolve it in a circular pattern and generate the shape. So once I have one profile, one nice profile, it's okay. So when you're thinking about where should I put lines, you have to think about the main descriptive shapes. Why am I saying this? Well, every month I get at least 50 to almost 60% of my classes that give me lines all the way down the model. And I'm like, what is that? You're literally going 1 inch and putting a new line. The shape has not changed drastically between them. So if I had to look at it, I would look at shoulder, upper bicep, head of bicep, elbow, upper forearm, lower forearm.
Watch.
Yeah, if there was a watch, you better. That's a great. I'm glad you brought that up. The watch itself. That's another thing. People just think about the body and they don't contour the structures sitting on the body, or they don't. They'll do a line here. Well, take that same line and show me you understand or can see how the watch bumps off of the surface, indents down, and then drops back into the palm. Right? There's a face to this watch. There's a lot of shape here. And if you're going to build that structure, you need to understand that structure. So it's not just a, hey, let me do some quick lines on the body. It's let me describe the pieces of this outfit and the character themselves, right? All of these structures. But we have to look for the main descriptive areas. Do not replicate. You're just wasting your time. I want good quality edges. It's not quantity over quality. It's quality edges that show me the model. And one good way to check is if you take an asset, and this is not how you're going to submit it, but if you want to check your work, put a white background between your line, or white layer between your lines, or whatever color looks nice with the lines you've drawn, and hide the image, and just let that layer sit there. If you can still feel the model, still feel the shape there, that's good. Okay, that's what these lines are meant to do. Okay, there's a cheetah there. And you can see this is really what people do, they oversimplify. So again, if I'm trying to model and show you that I know the shape, if I model the back of the cheetah like this with those gaps, that's not good. That does not show the contour. It looks cool because you're hitting the main line, but it's not accurate. Not accurate. Okay. Now, some people go, well, how is this going to help me further in my career? Well, one of the ways of modeling vehicles and hard surface stuff is by utilizing NURBS curves and making a wire cage. Right? So this is a model that a friend of mine was doing. We were doing our Hot Wheels challenge. And what they did was they went through with the blueprints and they made NURBS curves in Maya, lined it up with everything, and then they used those curves to start generating their surfaces. Now, they're outputting polygons, right? They're not outputting NURBS, they're outputting polygons. But this makes sure that it's accurate. And guess what? It's a lot easier to manipulate those. And can you feel the car shape? You can see the car. You can kind of feel the car right there with just the lines. So now he's already more accurate than somebody that's just going to take a brick and block it out, right? He's already kind of there showing the shape. And then you can see the car begins to get modeled off of those. Okay? So it does, it's a great way, look, just being able to dissect and digest and describe curves and arcs, huge. Huge. Okay? So, this is what I usually get. I bring this up every month, and it's terrible. Okay? It's terrible because does it get the job done to get a bad grade and call it complete? Yeah, it does. Right? But does it show that you really understand the surface? And most of the people that don't put a lot of effort into this, or I don't want you killing yourself on it, it is low on the totem pole grade wise. But if you're not looking at it truthfully and really trying to describe these shapes, time and time again, I'll look at these and I'll look at the model and go, yeah, they cannot see the shape. Right? They're missing how these shapes should be, thicknesses, contouring, anything like that. So you can look at this and think, all right, I want to make that a little better. So I'm going to go into that one there. Actually, just going to bring this one. This is another one. This one here is almost incomplete because we're not describing, right? Here we've got fabric here, but this is a two-part. There's a video, Contouring Basics. That's the one that's in Reading and Resources. I would tell you to watch that one first and foremost. It's me talking about the process and hitting it up in a two-step process. One would be the directional lines. So I want to see lines describing through an object, and then I want to see cross-section lines. Right? So we've got lines that show direction through. Right? A lot of people, they go, it's just a straight line. It's like, no, we got to dip in. We've got to pull the head of the bicep and dip in for in between the flexors and extensors, and then come out again. Right? There's a lot of shape going through that. Plus, we've got, if we were doing this one, we've got the vest. We've got a bunch of wrinkle information here, and then we've got the thickness of the stitching, and then we've got the thickness of the sleeve, and then dropping into the arm. So we want to have all that stuff accounted for. So this one here is missing that. And then if you gauge its accuracy, look at how sharp that transition is. Let me zoom in. Look at that. So basically, you're saying that the muscle goes in, folds on itself like an eyelid, and then comes back out. That's what I'm seeing in that line. Okay, so again, it's not really working. And these lines here are just not strong enough. Again, a newer animator, newer modeler, newer texture artist, they tend to have what we call a Z-depth issue, contrast issue, right? When they push shapes, right? Z-depth is more of a forward and back. So when they pull a wrinkle, they just pull it out or they push it in. They don't they don't think about gravity. They don't think about the fabric itself billowing. They don't think about that it's not just going in and out. It kind of rolls, right? It has that teardrop shape. And when we're looking at animation, they're not pushing things far enough, right? So their contrast isn't strong enough. Texture art is the same thing. That their contrast between their highs and lows isn't strong enough, so everything feels muddy and washed out. So modelers don't tend to push their shapes far enough. Animators don't push their poses far enough, and texture artists don't push their colors far enough. So that's what we got to think about, right? And this is one of those exercises that helps with that understanding. So that was great. Right in Photoshop. Photoshop.
Well, I can do Photoshop.
Is it?
I don't have that. I just have
I
to
believe look at
do sunset.
You know, I miss if you can look it up. When it used to be Alias Wavefront, and they owned Maya, there was one time where they had like circus performers, and one of the coolest opening screens was this girl. She had her eye down. She had a cigarette hanging over her mouth. The smoke was going in front of her face, and on her eye was tattooed Maya, or it looked like a tattoo. It was black and white. It was really cool. And they had another one where a guy was doing some contortion thing, and he had Maya on his back. It was really cool. And they were like, "Ah, we're gonna go with boring opening screens," and they just stopped that. Now they just took over. But yeah, those are cool. I like those. All right, so when you go in here and you get ready to do your first read, remember it's on the same exact characters that you're doing, or sorry, your second read, same exact characters you did your first reads on. The main trick with this, before when we did shapes, using the pen tool and using the shape mode, it developed layers for you. But this way it's going to be a little different. I'm going to be doing paths. And I don't want to work with just one path. Every line that I make should have a new path. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop in a whole bunch of path layers. Whoa. And you're going to have 60, 70 of these, right? Maybe 30 or 40. You're going to have a good amount. Okay? And then I'm going to go into my layers, and for every path I want a layer. Now the numbering is backwards, not quite sure why they chose to do that, but I want my layers and paths to usually work with each other. So I'll go path 1 and layer whatever the top one is, and make sure they're like that. But now I have, it's a little bit more setup, but I have more flexibility if you were to show me this image and I go, that line's wrong. Right? I love when people do it all on one layer, and I'm like, you need to fix that line there. I'm like, oh man, they try to erase it and have to do it. It's more of a hassle. And you'll learn in production, it's worth taking that extra 30 minutes and setting up your scenes properly, right? Breaking things apart the way they're supposed to be broken apart. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go path. I want to make sure I have the path that I want to work with, and I want to make sure I have the layer I want to work with. I'm going to grab the pen tool. I'm going to switch to path. So from shape to path. And we're going to zoom in on the model. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the model. Let's do... We're going to make a line that maybe we'll do the arm. I usually do other areas. All right, so when I'm going to do one for the arm, I'm going to take an edge that goes from here all the way down to here, because that shows me that I understand the change from shirt to arm to glove or whatever that thing is. And then maybe even into the neck, right? I don't know. I'll probably stop there just for time. Okay? So I'm going to switch again. And first thing I want to do is just hit it up with some points. All right? So everywhere I see a transition, I'm going to throw in a point. Now you could, just like with the other thing, right? We're a little familiar with this tool. There are some things that I can preset. Now, is anybody doing this character? Yeah, please make his anatomy a little more accurate. His arm, drawing a little bit funky, but I know a lot of people like to get in him and they try and match his arm, and it looks like somebody hit with hammers. Right? You can definitely keep the feel of the character and achieve more accurate anatomy. So, I look forward to seeing what you Alright, so I'm just kind of putting in some points, and some of these are gonna be right over what they were doing. They were trying to go down that line. Okay, so now we just have a line. We haven't really done anything to it, it's just a line. I know that I have to go in here and adjust it, but let's say you're just plopping lines that you want to get it done, and then you're going to go through and make adjustments to each one of your points. So what we're going to do now is, I want to make sure that I've got the right color set up on my brush, so we're going to grab the brush, make sure we have the color. Everything, if I stroke this right now, it's going to use a 60 pixel brush. I don't want that, so and go down there. And you might have to stroke it, look at it, and then stroke it again, look at it, and kind of figure out what works best. So the next thing I can do is, since this will be taking brush information, is if I go to Shape Dynamics, I can turn that on, and then I'm going to get pen pressure. So this is going to fade my line. Too much fade, and you lose description on your line. Right? The line fades out before the end of the line itself, so I can't tell subtleties at the end of the edges. So if you are going to do that, a little bit of fade kind of looks cool, doesn't hurt the description of the line itself. So you can do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my path and stroke path. Instead of using, by default, it's going to be set to pencil, pick brush, and hit OK. And so now what's nice about that is I can click off and I can look. I can go, wow, that's not very accurate at all. Let me go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to go to the layer that I placed it on. Just erase it. I'm going to go back to that path. We're going to zoom in. I think people are afraid of pixels. I don't know why. Maybe it's from the movie. Hey, that's not that. Yes. It's good for.
It's good for us.
You know,
No, it is.
you don't really want to be paying much attention to a movie, so it's good for background
Maybe it's creative when it comes down to the movie.
noise. Yeah, see, that was the funny part, right? I think this one has to be adjusted and then moved. And this one here. Power. Tuck that underneath, kind of trying to show the actual fabric. And you can push these around, right? Don't forget that you can nudge these a pixel or two. Sometimes that really makes or breaks the line. Who knows, you know? Here's another thing, I can't really see how thick those are. So before I model them, it'd be better if I have a good understanding of how far they sit off the surface, right? It's probably going to help. kind of looks like it indents in the middle. I can't see that color change, but maybe. Sometimes you don't know until you look. Right? So I think you see the point, right? I keep going down the arm, and then once I say, all right, cool, I like that, let's stroke that again. Okay. And now let's look at it and say, oh, okay, that's much more accurate. Or I look at it and say, well, you know, that line's a little hard to read. Let me thicken it up, whatever. Once I get those types of lines, you can see, right? I didn't just do this little piece or whatever. I went from the neck all the way down the arm, through the glove, into the hand. And now I go through and start doing cross section. This outfit here, right? The cross section is part of this directional line, so I might put in a line that follows some of these larger wrinkles, right? I want to see where these wrinkles are going. This one kind of stops. This one continues through, then waves up. Right? I know sometimes we can see this information, but again, just because I have seen a word doesn't mean I can spell it. So I want to describe that. So this one needs a lot more work, and it starts by just putting some nice clean lines in there, and then working your way through it. Okay. Questions? Have a good idea of where to go with it? Anything you're like, well, we did that. Why is that bad? Well. All right, so one of the reasons, let's look at the two grading criteria. Accuracy and description, right? So one, first thing I do is I look at it and go, are there enough lines there to correctly and accurately describe the shape? Okay. Are there enough lines? No. There are not enough lines. I'll show you where the one line that I just put in, that was one that was missing. There should be an edge here. There should be an edge here. There should be an edge through some of this other fabric stuff to describe its flow and its cross section. We don't have to do both arms. If both arms are exactly the same, you can describe one, I get it.
Same with legs?
Same with legs. The only time that would be different is if you went through and did your character, you pick a character that has a robotic leg and a regular leg. You would want to describe those, okay? This down here, there's nothing showing what this belt looks like. You can kind of see that the belt looks like it dips up and it's got these heavy seams in it, so I don't know if that's cloth. But now's the time to figure it out. Now's the time to look at it. So I'd probably bulge that with a nice little crisp seam and then pop up the seam. This skull here, it looks like there's some teeth there. You should have a nice line that's dipping in. Right? I don't even know what that line is. Right there, looks like, again, a bouncing ball. It's missing some cross sections here. Looks like we probably want one down here. We're missing a through line on the leg. It's missing a directional line through the strap there. Something to describe the toes and the shoe. Right, so that's just me going through it quickly. There's a lot of lines missing, and there are a lot of shapes that need more description. So then once I look at it and I gauge it for that, I look at it and I say, okay, how accurate are the lines that are there? But sometimes I see somebody, they've identified a lot of the pieces. And it looks good, their identification's spot on. But the accuracy of the lines being used to identify the shapes is off. Nothing's accurate. So then I look at the quality. That's why this one falls short. Good question. That's a great one. Why is this not good? Why is this one good? I don't know where those markers are. Okay, moving on to breaking apart the character. of, let's see, yes. Okay, so this is a character that's sitting, we're gonna make it. Okay, remember this one? Okay. Now, one of the things that's going to be a problem, there's no head here. In this week, you need a head. So it will be up to me to figure out how that helmet comes off, if I wanted to go with this one. And I already voiced my opinion on it earlier, but I'm kind of tired of doing the same demos over and over, right? So we're going to look at maybe the lower half and the arm and the sleeve and kind of figure out how we start breaking this apart. So the head, I'm going to need a head in there, and I can show you how I would go about that. Kind of maybe we can figure out a way to separate it right here, take that off, and start putting a head in there. That'd be a pretty good thing to look at. Okay. So let's look at the reference. All right. So basically, I need for this character the helmet, the head, this collar piece and back piece, the outfit, the gloves. I'm not worried about his holsters, those are secondary, but he's got this padding, that might be part of it. Just try to look like in Photoshop. The boots, I'd probably break those into two pieces, possibly three, to get started working on those. I'm not worried about the knife, it's a secondary object or a proper accessory. Okay, so I have to have some kind of an idea where what I'm going to pull apart. Okay. So major parts and pieces can be done very easily by extraction. Not the extraction like you might be thinking like in Maya, the extraction, right? You pull from, pull apart an area. Extraction in ZBrush is kind of like a duplication of faces, right? So I'm going to try and get to both of those today. The extraction, but first I want to focus on getting it into major pieces, right? And using very simple methods of doing that. So let's go ahead and look at the gloves and the boots first. So when I'm looking at large, chunky pieces, this is probably the method I would encourage you to use, and it's going to be just ripping this thing into pieces, right? But we want to think non-destructive, and I know that kind of goes against what I just said, ripping it into pieces, but non-destructive, how does that work together? What I'm going to look at here is duplicating. I'm just going to duplicate that mesh. I don't want anything to happen to that file. If I need to pull from it again, I'm going to. And if I want to do every single piece from a duplication, I can do that as well. I normally don't show that, but maybe we can look at it, right? By hiding an area and then just deleting what's hidden and then keeping what we want to keep. And at that point, for every piece we're going to break apart, we would end up having individual duplicated lockouts for them. Okay? So first thing we'll look at is the separation through splitting. Right? So we'll generate a nice clean poly group and then separate. You can also do this through masked points, so I will demonstrate both ways. And I'll explain why I like one over the other. And I also need to think about resolution. This gets people going in this. Resolution is kind of not an issue at this point. I'm not going to give you a poly count or anything. I don't want you going crazy with geometry, and I don't want you working too low. But you might take a surface from 400,000 to 4.5 million down to 4,000. It's all based on need. So you're going to need a little bit more geometry to work some of this out. So where are we at now? 82,000, not bad. Okay, so first let's separate the boot. Okay, so I'm going to utilize the slice curve. I'm going to come through here. Alt. to see what that did. Hide the other mesh, so I'll look at one. Now, am I worried about what's going on here? Or am I now thinking smart? Am I thinking now, let me just worry about what's going on this side. And then I'll start messing with the other side. I'll just mirror this over. Once I get one boot, why do the boot 2 times? Why just we focus on one and spit it over to the other side. So starting to think about stuff like that. Now, of course, stuff like this is a little bit, it's going to be a little bit of a problem when I start splitting it apart. I don't want the helmet to be anything that it's not supposed to be. So I will work on maybe cleaning that up, right? And very easily, I can come in here and do stuff like that, right? I might bring it back, maybe mask some things off. I'm going to try something. Okay, so what did I just do? Yeah, I fused all those other polygroups into one. Right, so what I had to do was slice the leg. I get all that funkiness all through the character. I'm not too worried about it. I hide everything by doing the polygroup. Then I went and I grabbed my select rectangle so I can isolate just the boot. Hide everything else, invert my hiding, mask it. So just kind of working it. But again, I'm going to do the hands same time here. This time I'm going to just do a mask. Just keep it simple. Okay. And I want to make sure that my polygroups polishes on. Okay. I should separate it through that center right here. That look pretty good. I'm going to try and put a seam right where that nice dark seam is. That'll work. What do y'all think? Yeah. Okay. We'll try. Yeah. Right? Now, what I did there, I don't know. I mean, it's nervous. It's nerve-wracking to kind of make a decision like that. I want someone else to look at it. Hey, what do you think? You think this is going to work? You think it's not going to work? So let's try it. Let's go ahead and mask this off. I want to want a much smaller brush. Sometimes you just have to go through that. You change pens. We'll see what camera we're gonna do that. Okay. So what we're gonna do is just make that its own poly group. Okay. So now that we've got some poly groups made, we don't have the other side or anything like that, but we've got some good poly groups. I can go in here and start separating these pieces. So whether you've used Z-Sphere or it's your Maya build you're bringing in, when you start getting into this, you're going to start leveraging certain geometries for certain things. So I'll probably be utilizing Dynamesh on a lot of these. One, to help me cap them off and to give me a little bit more of a solid structure to work with. It also allows me to add, right, on the fly if I need to. So this will now, instead of being one piece, it's going to end up being multiple pieces. So let's go in there and make that happen. So we've got that. This is the model one we're working with. That one's hidden. And we're going to go down to split. And you can see there's a lot of different options for splitting. I'm going to do a group split. So it's going to take the poly groups of my object and split based off of that. But you will notice that there are split to parts. So if I imported something that's made of multiple parts, this would take all the pieces and make them individual subtools. I can split mask points. So instead of going in and making the poly groups, maybe I could have just masked and then split it that way. That's good for some, why I would choose one over the other. I told you I would tell you that. Doing the actual poly group gives me a cleaner line without the sacrifice of having millions of polygons. To get a clean line with a mask, I need a lot of geometry because it masks based off of vertices, right? So you need a lot of vertices to get a really clean line. I don't want to go there yet. So by doing the making it a subtool, or not making it a subtool, but poly group, I can polish the edge and work with that and then get the clean edge that way. So I'm going to go ahead and do a group split. It's going to tell me undoable operation. Now, if you realize at this point that you screwed up and you're like, man, it's undoable, what you would want to do at that point, you're like, well, I want to redo this or rework it. Well, one, you've got your basic, your leftover one, right? So non-destructive. I can go through and delete these bad ones that I don't want and keep the other one, right? Do this again. Or if I merge down and weld, so you see merge, we have merge down and we have a weld option. Well, merging down and welding, basically any verb, it's almost like a reverse extraction, separate in Maya, right? So when you take a Maya surface and you separate it, anything that's not physically merged vert to vert separates into its own piece. So even if it's part of the model and you've extracted some of these faces and they're not physically fused to the body mesh, it will separate them into its own polygon or poly object. So in here, when you have pieces, I haven't moved anything yet, that's key. If I merge down and weld, it's going to weld all those points back together for me. Right, so I can pretty much reassemble it. Make sense? Yes? Okay. So only if you need it would you need to do that. Now let's look at the hand. Okay, Okay, I wanna hide, I'm gonna hold shift. Okay, so we just have the one hand, that's awesome, good. We've got the body. All right, there's the body, good, awesome, love that. I'm probably gonna hack this in half similar to what we did before. So we've got the glove, we've got the helmet, and we've got the boot. So let's start working on the boot and the leg. Okay. So the first thing I want to do here is I'm going to activate that shift and hide everything but the boot. I'm going to take a look at it and make sure that it is fitting. You see the back here, not quite where it should be. The pant leg will have the same problem. And I could have accounted for that when I was making my slice. I could have maybe sliced it from the side, right? Maybe give it more accurate, but I'm not too worried about it because I'm going to go in here and Dynamesh the boot. And as far as resolution, 232, you know, you're just going to have to look at it and see what you're going to need. Okay, so now with the move brush, I'm going to follow the side image because I like the angle. And again, one of the things that people get into, kind of a mistake, is everything's just so straight. From the side, it's nice to put that. So even though the back is drawing it slightly different. Looks like it's matching up nicely from the front. And even here, I'm probably going to separate that bottom of that boot. Let's go ahead and do that too. So we got the boot there. Looks like it split the top of the boot, so let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to go ahead here and merge down. So what I'm talking about is right there because I did a boot split. Let's go ahead and merge that down, put it back together. We're going to tell it to weld. It's only going to work if things are visible. Now it's back together. It should still have Dynamesh turned on, so as soon as I have to weld my Dynamesh, off the bottom. I'm going to go into the subtool, the boot itself. Let's go ahead and turn Dynamesh on for it. I'm going to work with similar resolutions. The cap, yeah, usually Dynamesh fills it in, which I can fix by, I'm going to go in here and just mask off that top, soften my mask, invert, move. Bring that up, scale. Okay, clear. update Dynamesh, let's work on the shape a little bit more. Now, I am not worried about the seams, right? I'm worried about big pieces. Not targeting seams, but I want a little bit better shape. We're gonna try and utilize the clip. Slice, like that. Clip curve. See which one is gonna work. Down, Dynamesh it. Not perfect, but it gives me something better to work with. Something to work, because I'm looking at the shape and stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and bring up the boot.
What's that all about? That,
That was pretty good.
you hit a lot of jokes, but that one, I remember that.
Put that off. Update Dynamesh. Make sure that this is fitting what needs to fit. Again, if you hold Alter Option, it should allow you to switch your subtools on the fly. Now I'm going to go ahead with inflate. Turn on lazy mouse. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and look at the pant leg. Now, one of the things I like to do is push assets around so they're a little bit more in line. So I'm going to go ahead and push that up, that sub tool. I'm going to push the hand up. So I'm using these little bent arrows there. That way, my selection process is a little bit easier. Check out the pants. And same thing, I'm probably going to just Dynamesh this, the body. And one thing to think about, right, and we always think about this kind of stuff, is if I want to just deal with the lower half of this character, maybe it'll be better if I separate it through a hidden line, right? Because that allows me to get independent geometry for the upper part of his torso, his outfit, and his lower part. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do that. I'm going to separate this right through here. And I think that's going to help out with the looking at the leg and stuff. So we still have our lasso mask tool. I don't have to be perfect right through that section there either. Control W, if it's a group, split, group split. Okay, bring back pants. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to Dynamesh them. You guessed it. Dynamesh becomes pretty much a really good go-to. Let's go ahead and hide that, start looking at what we've got. Okay, so what I want to do here is replicate the leg over, so now we're going to go back to modified topology here in Weld. Let's go ahead and make that boot, or that leg, look like it should. Right, and make sure that it's sitting the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to switch and use clip. You can hit solo. Sometimes though it's better to see on there. That. Bring back our reference. Okay, update Dynamesh. Bring back the leg. Okay, and now I'll start having some of the shapes. So what we're going to do, inflate. Looks like the boot should be forward a little bit. I think that's part of the PC. That's part of something else. Okay. There might be something there that we need to just establish. EIN will get you to your inflate. Let's go over the mark there, but sometimes I get the structure out and we can dial it back. Switch and remove. Update Dynamesh. We're going to start targeting some of the larger, more accurate shape there. Looking down, let's make that. I'm trying to bring it back up a little bit. Let's look at it. No. Okay, so we're starting to establish pieces. We want to clean these up. Clean these up any more than they are will cost more geometry. I'm going to need a higher resolution because I would start getting into things like these boots have flattened areas They have some more, more of that paneled style look. I'm not looking to add in again the seams, but I want the shape. I want that canvas to be 100%, so I'm just detailing and refining in the future weeks. But what I would recommend everybody do is go through and establish all the pieces, right? That's goal number one. So you notice that I did the boot. The boot doesn't look great, but it's broken apart and it's established. And I would go through each one of the pieces, make sure that they're there, they look pretty decent, and then I would do a pass 2 and then a pass 3. Otherwise, I'll spend 8 hours on that boot easy and then go, oh, I don't have anything else done. Right? I mean, that's why this. I'm going to say it again. That's why the scheduling. You tell yourself 30 minutes for the boot, 30 minutes for the pants, 15 minutes for the glove, 30 minutes for the body, 30 minutes for the head, and you make it fit within that 30 minutes, right? You feel the pressure, the stress, the eustress, the positive stress. You don't want to be stressing yourself out to where you're freezing up, but you want to stress to where you're like, I gotta get this done. You ever do that, right? In Metroid, Super Metroid, and even in regular Metroid, when you beat the thing, you're like, yay, what? Now I gotta jump out of this tunnel? I hate jumping. Jumping is probably one of the worst things in video games for me. But you gotta jump out of that within a minute before the whole planet blows up. You're like, right? It's panic. You panic, but you're having a good time, right? It's that same kind of thing, but I'm going through and I'm establishing the pieces. Now, the boot and the pants, they all look separate. The hand is the same exact thing. I'm going to do the same thing there. Kind of see how I'm going through it? Now, this works for large, chunky pieces. Hands, separating the head from the shirt, that kind of stuff. A big jacket that you never see the body underneath, right? You're just going to want to rip the jacket from the surface. So let's look at a little bit further. I want to look at the other pieces. So when we look at something like this, how might we start establishing shoulder plates? Okay, now first thing I need to ask myself is, do I even need the body underneath? Do I need it? Do I not need it? If I don't need it, I can get rid of it by just doing exactly what I did and extracting that piece off and working with it. But sometimes you end up with shoulder plate armor, elbow armor, forearm armor, a lot of things that you run into. I'm going to go ahead and split this into parts here. I don't want to have all those extra parts and pieces. And I'm going to delete the one that I don't need, which is that leftover boot. I've got a replication of that, so we'll just go ahead and delete that. And then there's something else there. I'm going to go ahead and mirror and weld it over. I'm not worried about the other side. Actually, let me get into, it's got something like this. All right, I'm going to have to bring back the other one, right? Thank goodness I saved the other one here. Whoa, I know, right? Now you're seeing 100% why that works, or why it's important. What I want to do now is I'm going to utilize this mesh to extract from sourcing. So this is an example of sourcing your mesh. You'll hear sourcing a lot. Scan data, all that kind of stuff that's coming up, 3D scanning. Right? Did anybody look up that? I know it's a weird title, but it's the Naked Body Home Scanner. Right? You sit on it, there's a mirror. I know I told you. Did you look at it? No. It's pretty cool. Like you just stand on it and it scans you, and here's your 3D model with your biometrics on it. That's a huge thing. Adam went out and scanned and brought in some kid riding like the bikes and the push cars and scanned those in. He's going to use them for his class. So photogrammetry, have you heard that term before, photogrammetry? Okay, photogrammetry is, and I'll do a demonstration later on, but there's a really nice program called Clone that you can get on your phone. And it gives you a printout piece. You put a piece of whatever you want on this paper, and then you spin around it with your phone, and it takes pictures. It stitches those pictures together and generates a 3D model for you. So a lot of the way assets are being generated in game and for background assets for film, stadiums in sports games, is they put a scanner. They bring laser scanners out and scan the stadium. And then they pay people to trace topology on top of it, building the usable topology. This is why things like ZRemesher and such are such scary tools, and why you might have people going, no, I'd rather do topology by hand. Because yes, it might seem easier to just click a button and get the job done for you, but you have to think about the impact on our industry. If I can go in and scan a full football stadium and hit one button and deliver usable topology, I can fire 15 of my guys. I don't need 15 staff members anymore. I can get one. And all I gotta do is know how to hit a button and use this scanner. So you gotta be careful with that, but photogrammetry is pretty cool. I can go scan, take pictures of a light post, and then boom, now I've got it. I can ZRemesh it, I can quad draw over it, it's gonna give me textures, it's gonna give me the right accuracy, everything's gonna be right there. Okay? So, sourcing a mesh, right? When I'm building topology, I don't wanna be thinking about shape, I wanna be thinking about generating the most usable topology I can, the most pipeline-friendly topology I can. Okay? So that's the sourcing method. So this is things like exporting this out, going into Maya, and quad drawing on it. If you want to know how to export, you select whatever tool, subtool you want to export. You go up, you hit export, you tell it to export as an OBJ, and it's ready to be brought into a Maya scene. You just import right into your Maya scene, lock it down like you would anything else you're going to quad draw on, and you start quad drawing. Extruding, building, anything you want, right? You are not limited to ZBrush this week. You can utilize building tools in Maya. You will be expected to bring that back into ZBrush and shape it further, but if you need to establish something in Maya, do it. But I'm going to show you extractions. I'm going to go ahead and extract these thin plates that it looks like he's wearing. It's kind of padding down his side. It's kind of weird. It looks like it's there, but then I guess it's part of the whole thing, but we're going to treat it like it's padding. That's what we're going to treat it. That's what we're doing. It is too simple. Right? This is why we have to understand our sounds like that's part of the holster.
I think the holster goes over.
Weird. I don't know. We'll make it work, right? Let's pretend like this is a pad. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just mask off. I might need more geometry. So what I'm going to do here is just add one more subdivision. This actually doesn't have any subdivisions. It was built with Dynamesh. So I'm going to divide it. Dynamesh is good for a certain whatever you need it for, but there are times when you don't need it anymore. Right now, I'm sourcing this. I need a smoother surface, so I'm going to divide it. Okay, I'm not worried. It's a little bit. I can probably smooth that out really quickly. Probably make sure that I have symmetry turned on. Smoothing out the pieces that I will be sourcing from. Okay, so now we're going to go in here and mask this off. Lasso mask tool, which might work out for me, but I would rather have the mask pen. Kind of squash through that area there. Essentially those tools back. I don't need this to be 100% super duper accurate, but I want to make it as close as I can without taking up a lot of time. see how it's sitting more towards the back. So I'm not gonna- I like the way from the side that it's there, but a little better inside. Now, if you were on the job, you would ask the person that. So here, probably follow more the front. But I'm just doing it as a demonstration. I'm gonna go ahead and hide the geometry so we can take a look at what this does. Alright, so we mask off the area we want, and now we need a surface. Right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to extract, right? Subtool. See at the bottom, there's an extract button. This is a really good tool, but also kind of dangerous, and I like to use it multiple ways. If you're gonna use it the way I'm doing it now, please be careful pulling surfaces through. Don't forget the back face masking under auto masking under brush as an option to help you out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract, pick a thickness. Let's just see what it does. I don't want double. Double extracts. It's almost think about like an extrusion almost. It extrudes in the model and out of the model. Whatever your units are, it gives you double the thickness if you have double. So 0.2 is 0.4. Right? So you're getting twice the amount of geometry. I want this to be on top. So at that point, I'm going to go ahead and just make sure double's up. By default, double is turned on, so make sure you turn that off. We're going to extract. So look at it. You go, oops, looks like we selected something we didn't want, so just quickly undo. Actually, undoing it is kind of not going to do much for you because as soon as you move your camera, the extraction disappears. Go ahead and unmask anything there, and let's extract again. Right, so you see the move your camera, it's no longer there. So we have that. So it looks a little too thick. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring this down. Let's try 0.01. That feels a lot better. Looks like we still have that extra thing there. Let's go ahead and clean that up. Okay. But once I say, I like that, you hit accept. Once you hit accept, it is a new piece of geometry in your scene. Now you're free to kind of work with it, sculpt on it, dynamesh it, do whatever you need to do with it. Right? Because I would want to go through here and clean up the edges. The edges on this are pretty messy. They're not nice and smooth like the surfaces that I want. I have poly groups that I can mess with. So as soon as I start smoothing that, I might need to add some more geometry, but I would go around it and I'd say, all right, let's refine that edge. Let's make sure that edge looks good, and then I would bring back the character. And I would say, okay, let's make sure this is sitting nicely on that body. Let's make sure that it's sitting nicely with the legs. And I bring both the legs and the torso down. So extraction is a really good way, but again, don't forget the simple, just hacking it into pieces and working with those individual pieces. You should end up with quite a few subtools by the end of this week for each character. Okay? Yay! So I know you're excited to get to lab and get that going. Yeah, all right. So hit it up. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will go from there. Anybody have any?